Agree or Disagree is the episode where we take some of your guys' opinions and react to them. We finally got to the stage where we are popular enough, or we think we are anyways, to actually use a fan's comment as an F1 debate show topic. Now, this comment came through on Thursday, and as soon as we saw it, we thought, well, we can't respond to it. We have to do one better than that. We have to discuss it in an F1 debate show episode because it's a really, really good thinker. So this comment came through from an account called Ewok from Endor. Star Wars fan, possibly? I don't know. And he says, question to you guys. Can you see Aston Martin doing a Brawn and winning in their first season? Amazing question. It sounds like an agree or disagree question. So to that I say agree. No, I don't really. But maybe we'll have a discussion about it. Maybe this deserves more than the 10, 15 minutes we give an opinion on agree or disagree. So Ewok, if you're watching this, great question. We hope you enjoy. And yeah, if you don't, it's a good thing to hopefully think about. We hope that you enjoy this question as well. So let's give you a bit of an insight to Brawn. A great story that, of course, came from Ross Brawn, who was a team principal of Honda in 2008. He bought the team through the credit crunch of the UK and basically the non-runnings of the Japanese team. He bought the team for £1 to keep them in Formula One, save jobs, and make sure that the team was competing in the 2009 Formula One season. He spent £1. £1. I think I've got more than that in my pocket, possibly. No, I haven't. £1 on the team. And the use of Mercedes engine for the 2009 season. They had British driver Jenson Button and Brazilian driver Rubens Barrichello at the helm. And what they produced was absolutely incredible in that year. They started the season alongside some of the big guns in Formula One, such as McLaren, Ferrari, and an ever-growing Red Bull race. And the lack of sponsorships meant that they were running quite a bland white and green car. It looked like Brawn didn't really have a chance, and it was more of just a customer team and the chance for Ross Brawn, who had a good season, a good career with Ferrari, of course, working alongside Ferrari through their winning constructors and drivers' world titles with Michael Schumacher. It just seemed like a time for Ross Brawn to get out there and have his name on a Formula One car. But what they achieved was absolutely massive. They really took that season by storm, and what's referred to as a blink and you'll miss it Formula One season. Absolutely incredible. Through 172 points that they achieved and 8 wins, 6 coming in the way of British driver Jenson Button and 2 in the way of Rubens Barrichello, and that meant that Jenson Button lifted the 2009 Formula One World Championship, holding off a pretty raging Red Bull, the first season where Red Bull really showed their true colours, and even the Ferrari and McLaren. Sebastian Vettel finishes in second and Rubens in third, so a very good lock of first and third in the 2009 Formula One World Championship for Brawn. As I say, that measly white car with very few sponsors and 2 drivers who, respect to them, even though they had good careers, especially Rubens at Ferrari, were, to be honest, not really well known at that point. But from a CEO and from a team owner who was known, had a great legacy and pedigree in Formula One from his work at Ferrari. Now, again, the main thing why Brawn did achieve so much in that year was, of course, in 2009, the regulations were changed around the car. They still kept the conventional engines, but there was a few things that were changed around the car in terms of aerodynamics and the diffuser, and the very famous double diffuser that was used by Ross Brawn to capitalise on the regulation changes. At the end of the 2009 season, after basically Brawn had gone from so little to so much, that £1 that Ross used to buy the team, so he'd have been £1 down, went to £179,999,999 up, and pushes that £1 back as he sold the team. That measly £1 team that he got from Honda, he sold that to German team Mercedes, who formerly entered Formula One again, and he sold it for £180 million. Honestly, a fairy tale, blink and you'll miss it moment. It's absolutely incredible. And Ross Brawn, as well as being one of the richest guys and probably the most happiest guy at the end of the 2009 season, saw a new decade, £180 million richer. What? It was incredible. Jenson Button finally has a world championship. Rubens has had a great story to his career as well, alongside Ferrari. And it adds to the Formula One fairy tale of what we know and love. And it again shows the strength of both drivers, teams, the unity, the Britishness. Because remember, British team, very, very strong from that. And again, how teams can get around the work of the FIA regulations. Absolutely incredible fairy tale story, Jordan. You must love it. I love it. It's absolutely incredible. Blink and you miss it moment, as I say. So again, that is of course the story of Brawn. And as we all know, the Racing Point is turned to Aston Martin next year. Mexican driver Sergio Perez and Canadian driver Lance Stroll will stay in the same team as Racing Point, but the team will go from being called Racing Point and the Pink Panthers to being called after the very iconic race team of Aston Martin, with Lawrence Stroll and the Canadian consortium at the helm using the Mercedes engine. So not much will change, but the name will, the iconic will, and we could be set for a bit of a rebranded team and very much like Brawn. So Jordan, as I say, just to kick it off right now, Brawn, blinking you miss at the moment, absolutely incredible for them. So Brawn, I mean, we're a team that really couldn't be matched in Formula One. And the first question to you is, will we ever see another Brawn again? And could that be Aston Martin for 2021?
Oh, the story of Brawn will forever be remembered for, it's an absolutely brilliant fairy tale story, not just in Formula One, but in sport in general. It's something that a lot of people that are on the brink of maybe, let's say, going bust or in a very difficult financial situation should look at that and go, there is possibility that a miracle could happen. Miracles do happen, and it did happen with the Honda team, the Brawn team, the team based in Brackley, which is now where Mercedes are now based. It's truly incredible. Will it happen again, though? I mean, never say never, but realistically, I don't think it'll ever happen again. And I would think the Aston Martin thing, them coming into Formula One, it's really, really incredible. However, they're not coming in the same way that Brawn is, unfortunately. Like, Lawrence Stroll's not really, he hasn't bought Aston Martin for £1, or he hasn't bought, anything else for £1, unless he's buying a packet of sweets for, let's say, Lance Stroll, maybe. I don't know. If he's been a good boy, that is. Not just a little joke there. Really, I'll answer the full question now. No, I don't think it'll happen. I don't think that Aston Martin will come into the sport and just immediately, start banging in race wins. Now, when Brawn immediately started winning, it was mainly down to the double diffuser, and you could say it was down to a regulation change. Now, the word on the street was that Honda had already built the car, which was the Brawn car, and it was set to be it was supposed to be a really good car, apparently. That's what the experts were saying when analysing the car, and what the engineers that worked at Honda was saying about this car. It was going to be a very good season for Honda that they were hoping for anyway. Now, obviously, with what's going on with the current world situation, the regulations were supposed to be coming in next year, the brand new regulations for 2021, they've been pushed back a year, so therefore you've got a chassis freeze, you're limited as to what you can change from this year's car to next year's car, so more than likely the cars are going to be the same next year, which means that Racing Point more than likely will be having I would say, a W10 car in what will be the W12 year, so they're going to have maybe a two-year-old car with maybe a couple of upgrades here and there, or they could just kind of do a copycat of last year's Mercedes, which looks a little bit similar to their predecessor, the W10. They could just copy that again and just add a few little details on the next year's car. But nevertheless, the car's still going to be a year out of date in terms of aerodynamics. So straight away off the bat, I can't see Aston Martin being at the front of the grid, winning races every single week like what Brawn did. I mean, they could still be on that jeopardy of or that trajectory of going forward, podiums, perhaps possibly a lucky race win here and there. But in the grand scheme of things, no, because what happened at Brawn was so unique and so amazing that it takes a long time for a team. It doesn't happen overnight. It really doesn't happen overnight. Like a team just coming in immediately, just dominating the sport. Mercedes took them 3-4 years to be able to build a championship winning team, and even though Aston Martin have already had these foundations of taking over from Racing Point / Force India, that they're still going to be needing a couple of years to get things going, get everyone on board, get the right people on board to be able to build this. Hopefully, what to them will be a brilliant project and possibly a championship winning team, but. I don't think we'll ever see a story like Brawn ever in the history of Formula One again, or even in the history of sport. We might see something similar, but realistically, I don't think we'll ever see it again. But on the subject of that, we did kind of see a similar thing with Aston Martin, well, Racing Point, if you want to call them Racing Point, just for this year's sake, because they were formerly known as Force India. They were a big underdog team in Formula One. every single year they would have a limited budget. They wouldn't have much money. Yet somehow they were always the fourth best team on the grid, despite having very little funding. And somehow they would always like get podiums. They would always, like I said, finish fourth, and it was just incredible. They became everybody's second team, and you wanted them to do well. And for a brief stint, I was a Force India fan. I'm not gonna lie, fanboy over here. But yeah, it was just like it's like in other sports. If you have a team that like an underdog team that they don't have the best players, they don't have much money, but somehow they end up beating the odds and doing very well and winning stuff, or even doing. What is it? Delivering above expectations. I think that's what it is. And Force India was that. But then in 2018, big news came that they had big financial troubles, and the team was going to be. The team ended administration and possibly going into liquidation, which meant the team would just dissolve. The whole factory would shut down. F1 would lose a team, and more importantly, hundreds and hundreds of people would have lost their jobs. And that was a bit of a worry moment for like those kind of few weeks or months. And former owner Vijay Mallya, he was already in trouble with tax and stuff like that already. So it probably wasn't really any surprise as to what happened. So we were kind of worried that this was going to be happening to an F1 team. But in comes Lawrence Stroll with his consortium. He buys the team and rebrands it as Racing Point, Force India Racing Point as they were called in 2018. From the Belgian Grand Prix onwards, which coincidentally is this weekend's race, by the way. And it was similar. I don't know how much he bought it for. I don't think it was for £1. I couldn't tell you how much he bought it for. But still, though, it was a team on the brink, on its knees, going bust, and Lawrence Stroll came in and essentially saved the team. Now, even though Racing Point didn't really hit the ground running from the next season, they still made some. They did okay. I mean, obviously, with what had happened the previous year, the car was nowhere near good in development. It was slow. It was bang average, let's say. But this year, they've hit the nail on the head, copied Mercedes, and now they are essentially the third. You could say the third fastest team on the grid, and I would happily agree with that. And I would say the second fastest in qualifying, third in the race. And they are looking like, again, with Aston Martin on board and Lawrence Stroll's funding, that they're going to be a championship winning team. And Lawrence Stroll was preceded as this guy, as this person who just threw money at a problem and it would be solved. And he brought his son all the way through the ranks. There's a few conspiracies around Lawrence, but we're not going to go into them. We'll let you have your opinion on Lawrence. Some people have like him, some people don't. But just let's not forget what he actually did for the team. He saved a team potentially going out of business, people losing their jobs, us losing the team and having 18 cars on the grid and not 20, and potentially killing the sport by doing so, because it's going to put people off going, well, they were a low budget running team, they haven't lasted, so if they can't, we can't, and they've got a factory and everything. So yeah, it would have put a lot of people off. And Lawrence Stroll has saved a team, and now look at where he is. Look where he's bringing the team. It's now going to be Aston Martin. How things have changed in such a short space of time. I mean, Lyle, let's talk about Lawrence Stroll for a bit now. We've spoken about the Brawn story. We've spoken about Aston Martin as a whole, and the Race Point story. But now moving forward, Lawrence Stroll, he's a bit of a hero, don't you think? And do you think he deserves a bit more respect around the F1 paddock and between the F1 fan base? Because I know some people don't like him for whatever reason, and like I said, if that's your opinion, then you stick by it. But surely, he saved a Formula 1 team, and now look at where they're going to be. They're going to be a team that potentially could be at the front of the grid when they were just scraping, earning peanuts. I think not earning a lot of money, not generating a lot of money, and still end up coming with trumps. Yeah. So, what's your thoughts on Lawrence Stroll with the Aston Martin deal, and do you think he deserves a bit more respect within the F1 community?
Yes, I do, definitely. I think he has portrayed something of, to be honest, a hero and someone who has saved. I mean, okay, he's not Ross Brawn, and he doesn't have the credentials as Ross Brawn. Obviously, Ross was known around Formula 1 so long before that, of course, Honda, BER, Toyota, and of course Ferrari with Matt Schumacher. But Lawrence definitely has, and he does get a lot of bad press. But Jordan, I don't want to sit here and think that we haven't called him. I don't think we have called him like nasty names, but we haven't said that he's like the best person since sliced bread. I think
before he bought Racing Point, there's so many names, honestly. Before he bought Force India, as they were formerly known as. I think before then he was seen as he funded. It was just he was funding his son's career. He was in the Williams seat because his dad bought the seat, and it was like, oh god, here comes another sugar daddy, and F1 doesn't want this. But as soon as he bought Force India and saved the team, I think everyone went, oh, this guy is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, definitely. And the thing that I'm now kind of getting around is Lance Stroll was in the sport beforehand. I mean, of course, Lawrence supported him. And that's things supported him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a billionaire dad, neither does Jordan, and neither does many people out there. But I assume in this way that they don't give you money like how, when I'm at university, my parents will support us, but they'll want to know what I'm doing. It's kind of like, we'll give you some money, you go off and create your own career, Lance. I mean, of course, Lance was younger than me when he went off to do this, but I assume his dad was more kind of, he has to race in Europe, and he lived in Canada, and Lawrence has his own business ventures, so he would have just given money to Lance and said, right, there we go, there's Williams, make a career of that how you can. And remember, Lance was in the sport beforehand, so the interest of the Stroll family getting into Formula One even more so, I think is really important to think. If it happened the other way around, if Lawrence Stroll bought Force India and then Lance Stroll drove for them, forget Williams, and say Lawrence came in first, that's when we would think, oh my god, you bought the team when you put your kid in. Of course that would where everything would start from. But remember, it happened the other way around. Lance was in the sport first, and then Lawrence would have seen it. He might have thought, I'm going to stay away from this sport. I'm going to support me child, which of course many of them do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm not going to be in the... But very much like Jos Verstappen, actually. That's another one, Jos Verstappen. He is a Formula 1 driver, very much loved as well. And of course he has input with the team, and of course he was involved with the 2016 training places. There was photos of him seen talking to Dieter Mateschitz. But that's the thing, there was only photos. When was the last time you actually saw Jos Verstappen? And I don't mean in the paddock, saying hi to Max. Of course he will be there, and he's been in the garage. But I mean, when was the last time you saw Jos being in control, sitting on the pit wall, and basically micromanaging the team around his son? You don't see that, because Jos... He either has respect for Red Bull, or he puts their trust in his faith in Red Bull to think that's what you're going to do, and you're running not my career, Max's career. And now, of course, I support Max, but remember, it's not my career. So in this way, I think Lawrence Stroll in the team is doing it more for Formula One than Lance's sake. Of course, it was written in the stars that he was going to drive for his own team, but in this way, I think that Lawrence has just bought into the Formula One because he wants to be in Formula One. He's an adventurous. He's a billionaire, so of course he wants to take risks, and he wants to, buy something that will work. It's his next business venture. At the whole point of his career, he takes risks. He's a businessman, so his business is Formula One. He's got in for himself, and this is the way that the superhero analogy might come around. We'll never know 100% if he did this or not, and I assume he's done it for himself. But if he's bought into Racing Point, he bought into Force India and became Racing Point to save the team, and as Jordan said there, to save jobs and to save the British name and to save really Formula One, because again, as I say, it would put people off. And of course, remember, save I was going to say two drivers, but remember Ocon did leave, so let's just say one driver in Checo. But save Formula One careers, and of course, keep two cars on the grid. If he's done it like this way, then yes, he is Superman, and he had saved the team. And yes, of course, as you said there, Jordan, Force India really, really changing what they'd done, because, in the early days of Red Bull racing, Force India in the Indian colours, and you had Paul di Resta and Adrian Sutil, and it was like, this team's going really nowhere. And then as soon as we started the V6 era, they were starting to pick up, Hulkenberg and Checo, and actually, do you know what, on a side note, the early V6 days, 2015, 2016, were pretty incredible, because in those years, also 2014 kind of, but 15, 16, you had Mercedes at the front, of course. Red Bull was still there, of course not as strong as they are now, but they were still there. Again, Ferrari was still there as well, creeping in, especially in 2015 with their new lineup. But then you also had Williams, you had Force India, you had a few of the midfield teams coming through as well. Again, McLaren were battling through, but it was quite an entertaining few years. So yes, that's when Force India became the team we sort of grew to love. And I think that definitely helped them in 2018, because if Lawrence Stroll bought the team of Paul di Resta in the early days of Nico Hülkenberg, it might have been a little bit like, why are you saving that? You know, they're a midfield, very low level, kind of, you don't really think about them team. But to buy them in 2018, when they were, the Pink Panthers, they had two strong drivers. You know, I mean, I know the collisions, of course, weren't remembered, but for the cars to have collided a few times, it's created headlines. You have spicy Sergio Perez. You have also spicy Esteban Ocon. You know, it's big news in a lot of spice, more spice than Carlos Sainz. So it's really, it's really hot. You know, it's hot news to have that team. It's really big. It's exciting. You know, they've gone from, we're not paid, but it's gone from buying a little phone brand to buying Apple. You know, it's big news. It really is exciting. So I'm glad that he did it. And to be honest, Jordan, I agree. He is definitely like Superman, and he's bought into something that I don't really think he understands how big it could get. This year, I think, has been a shock for Lawrence and the team, how well they've done. Yeah. Of course, they've looked at Mercedes for inspiration, but I don't like to say that they have copied off Mercedes. Obviously, if you've seen in the news a few days ago as well, the disputes have been now retracted from Renault and different teams like that. They were protesting heavily against what Racing might have been doing. They pulled back, and basically we're in to just race the season out as normal. And as Formula One fans, I assume you don't like that. We don't like to see all this dispute and paper talk, and just get on with racing, on track racing, let them race, all that stuff. So Lawrence Stroll is running a team who, as Jordan said, there is the third best team. But in terms of a comparison to Brawn, Jordan, I just want to bring you back to one of the big things that sticks out from what I said at the start. Might have been a little bit hidden at the start, but it's the fact that Brawn used Mercedes engine. Of course, they became Mercedes, but they used Mercedes engines. Even though it was the V8 days also, and of course it went after a few years after, straight after that year, it went, of course, to Red Bull. You know, they were dominating in that Renault engine. And now Aston Martin are using Red Bull engines, Mercedes engines. Yeah. And of course, Mercedes are the dominant team at this year. Again, is that an inclination that they're going to be as strong? We've had Mercedes dominance from the Mercedes team from 2014 to, of course, present day. But Aston Martin using, not Aston Martin engines, but Mercedes engines, and of course how close they've been this year, does that mean we are going to be seeing a very dominant year from Racing Point going into Aston Martin, of course mixed in with the progression that they have been making? It is getting very close to think that they are going to be the team on the top. But using that Mercedes engine, is that the key? We're going to see the Mercedes dominance next year. But will that be the actual German team of Mercedes, or the British team of the Silverstone-based team of Aston Martin? What do you think?
I would still think that Mercedes are going to dominate the sport once again next season. But having that, I mean, Aston Martin have got that affiliation with Mercedes anyway, because they build engines for their road cars and they build engines for their GT series and their WEC series. So they've got that really close affiliation with Mercedes. And having the Mercedes engines on board in Formula One, it's certainly going to help you, definitely. Because let's face it, they've got the best engines, they've got the better reliability, and they are much quicker than the other three, which is of course Ferrari, Honda, and Renault. So having the Mercedes engines is good, but I think this relationship is a lot closer than just an engine partnership, because you can clearly see that Racing Point have copied off the Mercedes. They've took pictures and they've proved their innocence and what have you not. And of course, not only do they get the engines, they get the gearboxes and other parts as well that are listed parts, unlisted parts. Again, I get that one really confused as to what you can and can't have. The ones that you are allowed to have, Racing Point do end up taking them, and they'll do so for the following season as well. So, and then maybe it could get to one stage where they could end up getting their drivers. If Mercedes believe that, okay, we're going to hang on for Bottas and Hamilton for another year, but Russell, we want to give him a bit more experience, they might stick him in a Racing Point or an Aston Martin perhaps. Well, Aston Martin. If we do say Racing Point, we mean Aston Martin. It's just confusing at the moment. Yeah. Hurry up 2021. You're well overdue, my friend. So they might stick him in an Aston Martin, and that's certainly a massive upgrade to a Williams seat. Again, no disrespect to Williams, but let's be realistic here. They might end up doing that. So I think it's going to be a very close partnership within the future, and eventually they could see maybe a little bit of a battle going on in the championship. And hey, who knows? I really don't know. I don't think they'll become a B team to Mercedes. I think that's what a lot of people are saying. I think they're too strong for that. I think there will be a front running team. It could bring the top 3 into a top 4, or just still a top 3. Just take out Ferrari and put in Aston Martin. I'll let you decide for that. I think more than likely Williams could be a B Mercedes team with where they are at the moment. But hey, we'll get on to that. Well, that can be for another episode. I can't see Aston Martin dominating the sport from the word go from next season. Like I said at the start, I just don't think it'll happen, because the car at the moment, they're gonna have a similar car to next season. They might improve, they might get more podiums. I just can't see them matching Mercedes at all next season. And then in 2022, hey, it's anyone's guess. And that's the great thing about a regulation change, because normally that is an indication of a big factory reset. Even though we've had a couple of changes here and there, Mercedes have still ended up on top. And then everyone's going, well, this is the biggest regulation change we've had since 2014. So could this knock Mercedes off the perch? But then with the previous regulation change in 2009, that's when Red Bull went from being a midfield team to a championship winning team. Then from 2014, when the regulations changed again, that's when Mercedes went from being a midfield team to a championship winning team. So now is 2022 going to be the year where Aston Martin go from being a midfield team to a championship winning team? You see a bit of a pattern going on here, and more than likely, I think there would be. I really do think Aston Martin can push on from there and certainly hit the ground running. But for next year, I can't see them. They might get a lucky win. I don't think they'll win on pace alone. They might get a lucky win should the two Mercedes have problems, or they might just turn up to a track and just not perform. And it depends who they've got behind the wheel, because more than likely it's going to be Lance Stroll. Who's going to be in that other seat? The papers are saying Vettel. Perez is saying himself. We'll have to wait and see on that. It could end up being both Perez and Vettel in an Aston Martin next season. I really don't know on that one. Again, that is for another episode. But yeah, I would more than likely think that Aston Martin will just be a plain bog standard midfield team next season. Very similar to what they're doing this season. Maybe just maybe a tenth or two quicker with a few upgrades on that front. But I think we should kind of end it with like a question just on relation to Aston Martin in the future. And we've spoken about this before about Aston Martin in their terms going forward, but I do believe that they will end up winning a championship.
Yeah.
Very sooner than what a lot of us think. And will it be 2022? Let's end this kind of debate with a question. Yeah. We both kind of said no, that we don't think Aston Martin will hit the ground running in 21, but will they do it in 2022?
I think.
Yeah, like, what do you think?
Sorry.
No,
I think when the Ewok sent us his question, he was hoping for what was basically going to happen after 2019 finish, which was the regulation changes in 2021, and that definitely would have helped Aston Martin. And we're talking about them possibly winning in the first season of the regulation change, which was supposed to be 2021, and that would have been their first season. And yes, that would have been the case. I don't think it would be the first year, but we really don't know. I mean, so think about when Braun were around. They had some great minds behind that. They had Nick Fry, they had Ross Braun, and they had the Mercedes bigwig from Brackley behind the scenes. They had also the Honda as well. They were still kind of involved with Formula 1 as much as they could be. They said that they used to actually stay in the factory, so they didn't have to fly back to, of course, their Japan headquarters. To work with the car and basically get the best out of what they could do. And as John said, they capitalise on the regulation changes. Of course, we had Adrian Newey and Red Bull. They did that as well. To find little loopholes, it's quite entertaining, really. You have pages and pages and thousands of words about the regulations from the FIA, and they read between the lines. It's honestly, it's pretty impressive what they managed to do. And of course, that's why people like Adrian Newey are branded. Of course, I know he worked beforehand with McLaren and teams like that, but he is branded with taking Red Bull to the height that they have been. Sebastian Vettel should get him the biggest birthday cake every single year because of what he's given that guy. It basically is about, can they capitalise on the regulation change? And from the team that they've got at the moment, it's not looking like there would be a force to go up against, for example, a Mercedes or Ferrari, who, I mean, I'm not saying Mercedes are as old as Ferrari, but they have the best minds behind it.
Another thing as well, actually, since you mentioned Mercedes and Ferrari, not only is Aston Martin going to capitalise on a regulation change, but Ferrari are going to be as well, and Red Bull, and possibly McLaren. So they've got a lot of other people, a lot of big teams to go up against as well, haven't they? So will they make a big upgrade? But at the same time, will everyone else around them make an even bigger upgrade than them? So you might go, you know, we might look at this in 2 years' time and go, what the hell were we talking about? Aston Martin are terrible.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you know, you look at marginal gains in not just Formula 1, but in sport. You know, in the olden days, teams, there would be a set team that would just dominate over everyone else. A little bit like in La Liga, you know, you look at Real Madrid and Barcelona running away with it in the olden days, but now everyone else is catching up to them. And now you're seeing teams like Atletico Madrid, Valencia, they're challenging the big teams, the El Clasico teams. Possibly not Barcelona. And on that side note, Lionel Messi, if you want to join the F1 debate show, I'm sure we can make room for you. I'm sure we can.
Well, he's linked with everyone. He's linked with Man City. He's linked with Newcastle. He's linked with Ferrari. He's linked with replacing Roger Federer. We may as well throw him in the mix of replacing us in the F1 debate show, or even joining us for that matter. May as well.
I heard that Mercedes actually messaged Lionel Messi on Instagram, and I don't even. And Lionel doesn't even follow Mercedes, so I mean, that's hard to swallow. I don't know if you follow Lionel, but anyway, moving away from him. So the marginal gains are kind of going. So again, like as you say, Jordan, we could be looking in 2 years' time and think Aston Martin have done so much work on the car. But really, all the work that they've done is great, but to no avail, because they're still the fourth best team, and they're still behind, you know, Ferrari and Red Bull and Mercedes, and possibly even fifth with McLaren, of course. Again, another customer team to Mercedes coming through. Again, you know, that's just one more team. And of course, as we know with Renault, once one more team is added, some of the other teams do struggle. So again, we could be seeing Mercedes struggle. We could be seeing Williams struggle, and of course, we could be seeing Force India, Racing Point, Aston Martin. My God, struggle. Because of course,
that
Mercedes
is the struggle. What you just said there, Lyle, that is the big struggle. Where's F1 struggle at when you need them?
Because obviously now they're going back to McLaren. So yes, that is more of a struggle, but I was the biggest. So yes, I don't know. I mean, it really depends. Can they capitalise on these regulation changes? It's not just that. I'm not saying that if they get these regulations right, they will dominate. It's also about having the best drivers. It's also about having the best power unit. It's also about just being the best team, the best ran team. I think we should
also bring into account, right, because I think, you know, I've kind of noticed that we are hyping it up, aren't we? We are adding fuel to the fire with the Aston Martin hype. But I think we should also mention that this could absolutely fail completely. I think because, you know, in my opinion, I think it'll work. I think Aston Martin will be at the front. But we've also got to take into consideration that this could be a big flop. Because, let's face it, Lawrence Stroll buying Aston Martin... Oh, here we go again, for God's sake. Lawrence Stroll buying Racing Point, who were Force India, is a risk, isn't it? Because, you know, you kind of buy a business because you might see potential in it. But at the same time, potential doesn't always guarantee results. So therefore, it could also be a massive, big dent in the wallet of Lawrence Stroll. You might go, well, okay, this is a big waste of money. I've invested lots. It's not working, and ultimately, we are one of the slowest teams on the grid. That could honestly happen, couldn't it, Lyle?
Yeah, I don't think at this point it could do. I think when Lawrence Stroll came in, there was a possibility that could happen. And remember as well, when he came in 2018, he didn't outright buy the team at this point. There was still co-ownership, and it was only because they were still known as Racing Point Force India, very much like Sauber Alfa Romeo. It was only in 2019 when it fully became Racing Point. Ocon was out the door, and you know, Lawrence and basically the Canadians took over what was a very British team before that, or an Indian team if you want to say. So I don't think that. I think if it was going to fail, and I think if Lawrence was going to walk away, it would have happened in 18 and 19. I think now we are very far down that line. I know it's only been 2.5 years, but I think we're quite close to, you know, Lawrence saying this is a good enterprise. And to be honest, this could be the defining part of my career. This could be the defining moment, like the biggest role, the biggest movie role that I'm going to have. I think it's exciting for him. And, you know, of course, Jordan, I agree, you know, it can go south, things can go south. But, many teams have in the past. Look at Richard Branson and Virgin Racing. Richard, of course, has been a very good entrepreneur over the years. Great things have ran in his favour. Virgin Australia, less to say about that, the better, but that was COVID's fault. But again, Virgin Racing, one of the things that just unfortunately did not work. So we have seen teams go south, but I don't want to think Racing Point is one of those. But just last thing, Jordan, very last thing before we end. We've talked about can they do it? And again, this is comparing it to Braun as well. So the last comparison we can do to Braun is Braun could do it, yes.
Yeah.
But let's go to the drivers.
Okay.
We had Jenson Button and we had Rubens Barrichello in the way. Rubens, very strong career. He started off in 1994. He's been with some of the big teams, driven against some of the big drivers in Formula One, Senna, Schumacher, and you could say beaten, thrown up a big fight against a lot of them, but I wouldn't say the most successful, and surely not the best and most successful Ferrari driver ever. And also Jenson Button, again, good career with BAR, with Honda, but again, you could hardly say the most successful career and hardly not the most successful British driver out there. He only won World Championship, Jenson Button, which of course was 2009, and most, if not all of it, almost all of his wins came in that year. Of course, 6 wins calculated to a pretty illustrious career, about a quarter of all the wins he took in Formula One. So, of course, that was a defining moment for Jenson. So we're either looking at a defining moment for one of the two drivers that are in Aston Martin at the moment, or possibly a few of the rumours that are around. Of course, one of them wouldn't be the defining moment, because, of course, said man has won championships before. I think you know who I'm going to say. So, yes, Aston Martin, they win the championship in 2022, let's say, because it looks like we're going to agree on 2022.
Okay.
Who would it be? Would it be Sergio? Would it be Lance? The defining moment of their careers? Or would it be someone else? And yes, how would it go? Very much like Jenson, because if you remember, obviously, as I just said there, Jenson, defining moment. And after he won the championship, he was a strong driver, of course, good with McLaren, but he never reached that level of fame ever again. So who would win? Who would be the Braun 2.0 at the team Braun 2.0 Aston Martin in 2022?
I don't know. You just put me on the spot there, Lau. That's cruel. Who do I think will be there? Honestly, I really don't know. I don't even know who's going to be there next year, let alone 2022.
We'll just say it's Sergio and Lance.
We'll say Sergio and Lance.
I don't know. Who go for our rumours off Racing Point. Racing Point. Who do you think will be in the Aston Martin car? Of course, we've said Seb. Do you think Seb would be there? Do you think he'll win the championship?
Yeah, he could be.
What do you believe? Who would be the Jenson Button of Aston Martin?
The Jenson Button of Aston Martin would be Lance Stroll, because now. Right, let's say, for argument's sake, that it's Perez and Stroll in Aston Martin in 2022. And let's say Aston Martin have got themselves a very good car capable of winning championships and, of course, a race-winning car. Now, if I was to say to you, Lance Stroll can be world champion, and I think it's not ridiculous to say he could be, probably a lot of you guys will go, guys, you don't know what you're talking about. You're absolutely clueless. Whatever. If you had said to someone, let's say back in 2007, 2008, even in 2008, Jenson Button will be world champion next year. How about off, mate? I mean, don't get us wrong. I mean, obviously I didn't follow F1 at the time, but I know Jenson he wasn't exactly setting the world alight, but I think people knew that the speed was there. I think he was one of those drivers that needed a quick car, just to see how good he actually was, and if he could go on to win a championship, if he had that that momentum. He had a brilliant year in 2004 with the Honda car. He finished third, just behind the two Ferraris, and eventually got his first win in 2006 at Hungary. And he'd always been at the midfield team, and that's where he was. And luckily, he was at Honda, who transformed it to Braun, and he ended up winning the championship. And people were like, okay, well, pretty good. GG, he had the best car, fair enough. But still, he still had to finish the race. He had to still end up without, doing any silly mistakes. He crossed the line first. That's ultimately what you've got to do. He drove well, saved fuel, did the tyres and all that job. And then as time went on, the Braun car didn't really improve. Other cars did, and they nearly lost the championship because of that. And the reasons why they didn't upgrade was because they didn't have the money. Because, not Lawrence Stroll, he wasn't around then. Ross Brawn, all of his money was in the team at the very start, in the car that I think Jenson said that they only had 3 cars all season, and they still ended up winning the championship, which proves how pivotal those first 7 races was. Winning 6 and losing 1 to Red Bull in China. So, and that was key. But still, though, Jenson Button still got the results in the latter part of the season to ensure that he was far ahead enough to beat Vettel in the standings. Now, I think Perez definitely can win a championship if he's given the right car, but so could Lance Stroll. And I think a lot of drivers on the grid, I would probably say about 90% of drivers, maybe 80, I'll go with 80. 80% of drivers on the grid now, if you gave them the best car, they would win the championship. And I think Lance Stroll is in that bracket. Now, again, it all depends who he's got as his teammate. He could be no one. It could be, well, obviously be somebody, but it could be either Perez nor Vettel. It could be a young driver. It could be Eilert. It could be Schwartzman. Again, Hulkenberg. It could be anybody. So, and if he's the leader, then surely he's going to get the best. He's going to get the best upgrades. He's going to get the best everything. Yeah. He's going to get the parts before his second driver. And if Lance Stroll has certainly shown that he's got a better car, which therefore he's performing better than he ever has been. So I'm like, okay, then he's going with the times. There's still a long way to go, so I'm only judging him off the first 6 races. And I'm impressed by him, and I think he's turning a lot of heads towards him. He's not doing anything. I'm not overhyping him. I'm not saying, this guy's going to win 10 million world championships. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's performing a lot better. So okay, then he's going well with the time. So if you give him an even better car, what could he do? But it's just because you've got the best car doesn't always guarantee you're going to win the championship, because you've got to go up against other drivers that potentially do have a similar kind of car, if not better car than you. But it's not just down to the driver, it's down to the team as well, down to strategy and timing of things and setups and stuff like that, and a little bit of luck as well. So, and I would say if Stroll had the car, then I wouldn't call it ridiculous if someone turned around and said Lance Stroll can win the championship, because I believe he could, if he's got the right car. But again, it's anybody's guess. So, and if Perez was to win, I would class him as the Mark Webber, because Webber was a bang average driver. I mean, he was okay, but he was always at the midfield teams. He then went to Red Bull, nearly won the championship in 2010, but he was still, he was winning races. He was at the front because he had a good car. And if Perez ends up winning races and possibly wins the championship, then you could say, well, he's the Mark Webber in the modern day Formula One. And Stroll, for me, would be the Jenson Button, a guy who he's okay, he's likeable to some, and even though Jenson's dad didn't really buy him a team and funded his career fully, he still brought a lot of support, and he was always seen around the paddock. Himself and John, brilliant guy. Shame when he passed away, and Jenson ended up winning the championship. Lance could possibly do that. So I would say Stroll would be the Button of this. And if Vettel came in and did it, I would say he is the Niki Lauda.
Vettel is a Vettel.
I would say Vettel could be the Niki Lauda of this. Even though Lauda did walk away from the sport, then come back in a better car. Vettel did very well at the start. With the team he was in at Red Bull. He didn't have good years after that. But then he came back and now he's won a championship a few years later. So you could say he was the Niki Lauda, I suppose. Again, that could be a dodgy comparison. But Lyle, let's have your say on this before we end. Pretty much the same question back to you. What do you think about this? Do you think Stroll, if he's got the car, in your opinion, can he win the championship? Or do you think, no, I think he's a bottle job and Perez could easily do it? Or do you think someone else could do it for that matter? Someone that we might not have mentioned in this episode?
Yeah. I think Stroll definitely has the power to do it. It would serve quite well for Stroll to do it as well, after all the negative kind of comments that he gets and people think that he's obviously paid for and things like that. It's who will shine more in that team. But in 2009, it really was a massive toss-up. And to be honest, I know that one of them won the World Championship and of course both had good careers, but you would think and you would go, Button and Barrichello are not the best team. They're not the dream team. For example, like when Rosberg and Schumacher was at Mercedes, I think that's when you would kind of, or Button and Hamilton, you would sit up and you would go, right, here we go, this is going to be good. Nico Rosberg, son of Kettle Rosberg, world champion. Nico Rosberg was a good driver at this point, German as well, sat well German with the team. And of course, the man who needs no comparison, Michael Schumacher, on his return at a German team. 2 Germans in a German team after all of the stuff that they have. Even 7 world championships between them. And that is 0 and 7. But that's still incredible. It's more than you have. So, the hype around that would have been, here we go, this is going to be a good season. And you had Button and Barrichello, and, where's the hype? Like, this is not, to be honest, Barrichello, I'm like, what was the standout of his career? I'm sorry, but, you're in Formula 1, obviously good. You drove for Ferrari, very good as well. But what was your highlight? And you would think, what are they going to achieve? And it's kind of like Perez and Stroll sometimes. You think, what can they really achieve? And in the preview show, John, I said that Ferrari was, at the moment, a midfield team with top-rate drivers. They're it's a midfield car, and the SF1000, it's not very good, but their drivers are top-rate. They're, they're top field, high field. We don't really say that, do we? Midfield car, top-rate drivers. You're Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. Seb has still got it, definitely for sure. It's kind of the other way around if we're in this situation. We have Aston Martin, a top-level car, a car that we know can do good things. But to be honest, 2 drivers who, okay, fair enough, they're not midfield like we're looking at Roman Grosjean or someone like that. But we're not looking at like Max Verstappen. Max and Perez is not a Max, and Stroll is not a Max, and Stroll is not a Hamilton, or even a Nico Rosberg, or even a Valerie Bottas in this season. So you look and you think, who could actually do it? But I do think that Stroll would get more of the backing from the team, of course, from his dad. I do think Stroll has the capacity to do it. I can't really say, Jordan, in this episode, who would win the championship. But the only thing I can say on this is we're going to have a hell of a fight. Yeah. Because we know Stroll can fight, and we definitely know Perez can. Yeah. We, look at the seasons he had with Ocon, and look at the season he had with Hulkenberg. Beat them both, incredible. He's beaten his team in every year since 2014, and at the same team, at that pink team. It might have evolved, but it's been the same team underneath, scratch beneath served, and it's still Force India. And Perez has marked his territory since 2014 in the V6 era. It's looking good for Perez. I would say he's got more of the upper hand, but I don't know. I can't say. So there we go. Let us know. Let me know. I can't say. Jordan said his, but what do you think out there, guys? Let us know in the comment section below. Who do you think will win for Aston Martin? And of course, do you think Aston Martin will win the title in their first season of next year? Will it be when the regulations change? And, do you even think they will at all? Or are we just saying that this is going to fail and that pink car or racing green car, whatever it's going to be for next year, is not going to go anyway? Last thing as well, thank you very much to Ewok as well for your question. Absolutely incredible. We knew that this was going to be a good topic for the F1 debate show.
I've enjoyed it.
Yes, we hope that you guys agree as well. So thank you very much for watching this episode. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get notified every time we upload a video. We have so much more content coming for you guys throughout the 2020 season. A confirmed calendar as well, finishing in mid-December. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We hope that you enjoyed our content. We hope that you enjoy the Belgian Grand Prix, which is tomorrow. Going to be a great race, 44 laps around Spa. I think everyone's favourite track in the Formula 1 calendar. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Stay safe as well. We hope you enjoyed Belgium. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.